I'm going to be doing a full face of makeup hacks for over 40s. And you may be asking yourself, how would I know about makeup hacks for over 40s? Well, the reason I know is because I'm 44. So I think I know a little bit about how to look a little bit younger and what makeup to use and why certain textures work. So I'm gonna be doing, like I said, a full face, so let's get started. I already have my skincare on. Now, what's really important is what your bare skin is prepped like before you apply your makeup. The most obvious concern that we have when we get over 40 is drier skin. But I have to be honest, I'd say majority of people when they when they're in their 40s, whether it be mid 40s or late 40s, when they're in their 40s in general, your skin does become slightly drier, and it doesn't mean like flaky dry. It could mean your skin is a little bit dehydrated. But I would say when you get into your 50s, 60s is when you really start seeing that kind of lack of elasticity and less moisture in the skin. So I'm not saying that that means that you don't worry about kind of dry skin at all in your 40s, but I feel like you don't have to worry as much as when you get into your 50s and 60s. Now, I've used my basic skincare that I know suits me. I need you guys to use whatever your skincare is that works well for you. The next important step is your primer. So this is where you want to see what your skin is like. Like, do you get quite a lot of oil production through the day, in which case use a mattifying primer, or do you feel like your skin can look a bit dry or just cakey throughout the day, in which case you probably need to use a kind of hydrating primer. Now, the primer I'm going to go for is a mattifying primer because I feel like my face gets a little bit shiny through the day. Now, I'm going to use my Benefit POREfessional matte primer. I am going to smooth this over my cheek areas, my nose, and my forehead. The reason I like using a mattifying primer is because my skin is generally, I would say, combination to it's not oily, but it's combination, and it can end up breaking out, and sometimes it also feels a bit tight when I've washed my face, so it is slightly dehydrated. So I like to use something which is hydrating for my skin, but at the same time that means I need to counteract the kind of oiliness that comes through. So that's why I like using a mattifying primer. Now, the first hack is going to be using your concealer. Now, I'm going to be showing you how to apply your concealer underneath foundation. I've done several videos where it's the other way around, but today I really want to focus on why this is a good hack for you. Now, the reason it's good for you is because it's going to give you a more soft focus finish, but it isn't just about, the hack isn't just applying your concealer underneath foundation. The hack is the type of texture that you're using and how you're blending it and how much you're applying and where you're applying it. We're going to dive right into our concealer. You want to use a texture which is not overly drying on your skin. So personally, Tarte Shape Tape works really well on me, but you guys might find that a little bit too heavy for you. So then I would suggest going for something like the Too Faced Born This Way Multitasking Concealer, because that's also a great concealer. Now, I'm going to be using my Tarte Shape Tape, and I want you guys to use the concealer that you know suits you well. If you feel like your face ends up looking very dry, cakey throughout the day, it might mean that you need to actually get a slightly lighter coverage concealer. So it really depends on what your makeup is currently looking like later in the day, and knowing what you don't want, and then trying to improve it with the types of products that you pick. So what I want to do first is I want to prep my eyelids. Now, this is another area that I feel like really gets a lot of creasing throughout the day, and the way you prime it is everything. Now, the way I prime my eyelids is using concealer. I don't use an eyeshadow primer. Honestly, you really don't need it. What you want to do is get a little bit of concealer. We're gonna add this to the lids. We're going to get a sponge which is damp, and we're just going to press this in. You don't want to use a lot. You want to use a very small amount. I've used 2 dots. 1 dot might be more than enough for you. Okay, you can see that I've got that nice kind of finish. I want to get my powder now. Now, you want to use a powder which is pretty fine, something that isn't overly kind of chunky. Now, I like using my Huda Beauty Easy Bake. You might find that a little bit chunky. If you feel like your skin can't take as much makeup, then swap to something like the Makeup Forever Loose Setting Powder. That's also amazing. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to get my powder puff. I'm going to press into this powder. So I've got a whole load of powder there. I'm then going to just press over my lids. Now, this area, it is pretty important that you press it with a powder puff. The reason being is because it's more likely to crease than anywhere else alongside the under eye area. You want to get a brush and just dust off the powder. You don't need to leave the powder there for a certain amount of time. That's it. That has primed our eyelids for us. So now what we want to do, which is still within the whole concealer hack part, is we want to apply concealer on areas to lift certain areas. And this is really important especially as you become older, because everything starts to droop a little bit. You know, you're not as lifted in certain areas as you used to be. You also want that kind of youthful appearance. Now, what I would suggest is going for a concealer which is very slightly lighter than your skin tone, not a lot at all, because that can also end up looking quite pasty and obvious. So you want to get a concealer which is just a touch lighter. Then what you want to do is apply it in strategic areas to give you a little bit of coverage, but also lift. And this is where you don't actually need to apply as much as you'd think you'd need. So we're going to go ahead and apply just a bit here and there. We're also going to go underneath here on the sides of the eyes, and we're going to lift it upwards. Now, everything we're going to apply from now on is going to be going in the same direction. We're going to go beneath the lower lip line, and we're going to go up there. Same direction. I personally wouldn't apply it anywhere else because I feel like this should be enough for you, but also remember that when you apply cream products to the skin, the minute you start blending, it expands, it kind of spreads. So you're gonna expand the coverage. So where you've applied it is not just where it's going to end up. It's not going to stay there. It's going to spread into other areas. So you want to basically utilize what you've applied and move it towards other areas without having to apply more concealer. Now, what we want to do is we want to keep this in the same direction. So you want to use either a brush or a sponge. You could, if you're going to use a brush, use the Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood complexion brush. Link will be in my description. This is a great brush for blending concealer. So what we're going to do is just press on top, and we're going to go up in that direction. And same thing here. It's really easy and really quick. We're going to go here. If you feel like you need more coverage as you're going along, obviously you can apply more concealer to begin with, but I always feel like it's a trial and error thing where, you know, you do it and then you realize after I could have applied more, or maybe I need a little bit less. So don't think you're going to get it perfect the first time. You do have to kind of like see what the result is like in order to know what to change the next time. Now this is where we want to get our sponge, and we're going to start covering this under eye dark circle. So we're going to just press. We're going to keep bouncing this sponge around the area on the under eye area and just kind of spread it out onto the cheek a little bit. There you go. Don't worry about other areas that maybe you look at and you think, you know what, but I'd want a little bit coverage there. Because when you apply your foundation, that's also going to give you a little bit of coverage. Now, if you are over 40, I would always recommend sticking to cream textures. And that's exactly what we want to do with the foundation. We want to go for a sheer coverage. So nothing which is too heavy. I want something quite liquidy and no more than sheer to medium coverage. I'm going to use my Huda Beauty Easy Blur foundation. I like the fact that this is a very natural airbrush finish to it. It's a light to medium coverage, so it's a pretty good formula, I think, for anyone who is within their 40s. Okay, so we've got a little bit on the back of our hand. Now what we want to do is apply this with a sponge, but we're going to buff the foundation into the sponge first. That's a really important little hack there for you to do. Like, buff the foundation into the sponge before you buff it onto the skin. Now we're going to start from the top and we're going to work our way down. And you'll see that this, in fact, gives you that little coverage that you need on the rest of the kind of areas of your face. You just keep buffing it into the sponge before you buff it into your face. Onto your skin, I mean. Now we're going to go over the under eye area. It's important that you do go over the areas that you've applied concealer, because that's gonna just tie everything together so it doesn't look so disconnected. And you're just gonna take this over all of the face. The aim here is to just get that veil of color all over. Go down the jawline, and that is it. That is your base done. But what we want to do is we want to rely on cream products to kind of sculpt the face rather than rely on like a powder product after. And I would say that's the biggest kind of tip I would give, is stick to cream liquid products on your skin. Now you could have applied a contour underneath your foundation, but I want to apply it on top just to kind of give you an alternative, because I know some people still prefer applying it on top. Something I would highly recommend for people in their 40s is the Makeup by Mario SoftSculpt Shaping and Bronzing Serum. I just feel like this is exactly what you need. So just put a little bit on the back of your hand there. You can use the brush, is from Makeup by Mario, which is the F4 brush. Use the smaller side and kind of buff into the product. Again, you're buffing it into the brush, and we are now going to go along this area here to give ourselves that really nice kind of like shape to the face. So we're basically touching the top of the ear, or the top part. We're starting from there, and then we're working our way in. And this is just kind of like going to give us a little bit of kind of dimension to the face. And I like to just bounce the brush over the skin as opposed to kind of drag it. You do need the smallest amount, by the way, especially when you are applying it on top of your foundation. I like to just go along the perimeter of the face because I feel like it just kind of warms up the whole area. There you go. I'm happy with that. So now I won't need to actually apply a powder contour afterwards. Now, this is where it is a little bit different applying your powder when you're in your 40s compared to when you're in your 50s or 60s, because I feel like you can still get away with pressing the powder into the skin, but it really does depend on your skin type. So it could mean maybe you have like aged a little bit faster. It happens. Honestly, so everyone ages differently and at different speeds. So I feel like you could have some people in their 40s who look a lot older because their skin has aged much faster. You could have people in their 40s who don't look as old because they've aged a little bit slower, or a lot of it might come down to actual like kind of non-invasive treatments that you've had done. Things, you know, you've looked after your skin, you're having certain treatments to try and kind of like slow the aging process or smooth out your skin and just generally like kind of look after your skin a bit, as opposed to only using skincare to do that. So it depends on what your skin is like. If you feel like your skin looks cakey very quickly and easily and it looks drier, then I would suggest using a brush to apply your powder to set everything. But if you can get away with a powder puff, that is going to be perfect for you. Now, you want to get your powder puff, you want to press it in to your powder. You're just gonna press this on the under eye area. And what I wanna add is you actually don't need to wait and leave this powder on. I feel like so many people just let it sit there when actually it doesn't need to. I mainly press this onto the areas that I know I get super kind of like shiny later on in the day, which is normally down the middle and then on the under eyes. Then what I do, this kind of like helps with anyone who maybe prefers to use a brush, is I get my brush and then I dip it into the powder. This is my hourglass brush, and I apply this onto the areas like my cheeks. And then I dust away the powder from everywhere else. You do want to get a smaller brush just to take away the powder from the under eyes. Another little hack for you is to go easy on the brows. Don't go too heavy, because that is something that I see a lot. And trust me, I've done it myself sometimes when I've had a really bad brow day and I just keep going at them, and then before you know it, it just looks like super dark. That is the worst thing you can do. You've got to be light-handed with your brows, because I feel like as you go into your 40s, you just want to be a lot more subtle with certain features. Like, you don't want your brows to be so kind of like heavy and like super dark or anything. So you want to be a lot more light-handed. And I definitely see, if I look back to how my makeup has transitioned, my brows have become less drawn in, and It doesn't mean you necessarily spend less time on it, but it depends. If you have sparse brows like me, you're going to still spend the same amount of time on it probably, but you're just very strategic with what you use to ensure that the result is a lot kind of lighter looking than a heavier brow. This is something that I feel like is going to work great for you, but there is a specific way to do it. You want to use like a brow wax or something to really keep them in place. Now, the worst thing that happens is when you brush them up and you just literally flatten them straight up. It looks awful. So what you want to do is you want to really brush the brow wax through the hair. I'm using my Benefit Fluff Up brow wax. So I really kind of go in circular movements over the hair. I then brush up but to the side. And then I use my finger to flatten. And you want to do that on the other side. So I just go in circular movements and then brush up to the side. It looks a lot more natural this way. It also gives you a better idea of exactly where you're sparse so that those areas you can fill in correctly. Now, ideally, you want to wait for that to dry a little bit. So I will move on to another area very quickly. So what we're going to move on to while we're waiting for the brow wax to kind of like dry is just adding some color to the face. So you could have added a cream liquid kind of blush and highlighter beneath your foundation. So you can do it that way. But I do want to show you how you can still apply it on top. Now, there are certain products, textures that are just not going to work on top of powder because it's just going to become one big mess. But there have been new releases, new textures that have come out that mean it's possible to apply the product on top of when you've set your makeup. Now, one rule of thumb is always once you've set your makeup with your powder, always let it kind of sit for a little while. And I don't mean sit with the powder on top, I mean once you've taken the powder off, let it settle in for a little while before you apply the blush if you're going to apply it on top and you're not using a powder, because we're sticking to cream products today. The only powder is actually the setting powder that we would use. I'm going to be using my Milk Makeup Jelly Cooling Jelly Blush. I always forget what this is called. It's like such a long name. Oh, Cooling Water Jelly Tint. And this is in Spritz. This is one of my favorite colors. Now, this is kind of like not a cream and not a liquid. So it's this transparent, it's jelly basically. And it makes it so much easier to apply on top of like when you've set your makeup, because it's almost like this, it's an instant tint. You don't have to blend so much. I'm going to be using my Hourglass 15 brush because I do feel like this pairs up perfectly for when I'm applying it after I've already done my base. So I'm just going to go over the product like that. Now, always make sure you go on the back of the hand first to see the transfer. You don't want too much product to be on that brush. Now, this is where we're going to apply it just on this top part of the cheekbone, because this is really going to help to also lift the area. So we're just going to press. Whatever you do, do not glide because you're going to ruin the base underneath. You just want to let it sit on top. And you're kind of working on creating this like oval shape there, just there. And this is going to make you, like, just give you healthy looking skin with that color there, which I think looks stunning. And you want to stick to this top part. There you go. Just remember, if you do want to apply it along here, the apples, that's fine, but it is going to make your cheeks look a lot fuller. Now, another thing I want to do is add a little bit of glow to my skin. That blush kind of gives me a tiny bit of glow, but I do want a little bit more glow, and I'm going to use my Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood Flawless Filter in 5. Now, what I'm going to do is put a little bit on the back of my hand. You really do not want a lot of this at all. This is going to give you the most beautiful, healthy, glowing skin. And what you're going to do is use that same brush. You're going to buff this into the brush. Make sure there's not a whole load of product that comes off of it. You're going to go just on the peak of the cheekbone here. And this is just going to add that really nice highlighted glow, which looks great on slightly older skin, because you're adding that kind of healthy glow back. You're infusing it back into the skin. You can add it to certain areas if you want, like if you do want a bit more glow kind of all over, that's up to you, but you want to leave it as that. You don't need to do anything else to that kind of base now. So next we're going to do the brows, and again, like I said, be very kind of like light-handed with this. I would always suggest using a brow pen paired with either a brow powder or a brow pencil, but a good pencil that doesn't transfer too dark. So I'm going to use my Lime Crime Bushy Brow Pen. It's literally the best brow pen alongside the Anastasia Beverly Hills one. This is in baby brown. So what I want to do now is just draw hairs, but only where I feel that I need them. So I'm not going to actually draw this all the way through the brows. Can you see just that has given me more of a shape there, but I know it needs adjusting a little bit. So we're going to go ahead and do this on the other side. We're going to go through the brows same way. Another little kind of tip I would give you when you're doing your brows as you get older is ensuring that your tail is a decent length. It's not too long, but it's also not too short. You really want it to kind of frame the face. So we've done the brow pen. So now I want to show you quickly with the brow pencil. You want to get a brow pencil that is kind of thin, you know, but also gives you good transfer. I'm going to use the Kosas Brow Pop Nano pencil in dark brown, and I'm just going to kind of shade in the areas that I feel need a little bit of a helping hand. So I'm just kind of like doing little brow strokes along the underside of the brow and then filling in areas where I know I don't have much hair. And what that does is it actually adds just a bit more kind of dimension to the brow so that it doesn't look so flat. See, already we've got a little bit more shape there. That is more than enough there, but I'm going to show you a little trick in a second that's part of the kind of like brow hack. Okay, I'm happy with that. Now, a little trick is if you feel that your brows are still looking a little bit kind of like dark, get like a small brush. The Real Techniques one is fine. Get whatever powder you use. So I can go back into my Huda one and then just dab on top. And that's going to help to just lighten it a little bit. Okay, so next up is your eyeshadow hack. Now you need to use cream or liquid eyeshadows. This is going to be a game changer for you. The best way for me to explain it is your skin changes, your features change as you get older. And at some point you've got to change the makeup that you apply because you need to adjust or adapt with the changes that are happening to your face and your features. So the things that once suited you may no longer suit you, so you need to find new textures, new products that are going to suit you better with how your skin is now. And I honestly think that cream liquid eyeshadows are amazing for kind of just infusing that life back into your makeup once you've kind of got into your 40s. Now I'm going to use the RMS Eyelights Cream Eyeshadow. I've got the shade Flare, which is this kind of like really nice bronzy shade. I've got a little bit on the back of my hand. You can go for matte, liquid or cream eyeshadows, but personally I feel like using ones with slight shimmer in there work way better. So what we want to do now, I've got this on my finger. I've really made sure there's not a lot on my finger. I've buffed it into my finger before I buff it into my eyelid. Now I'm not going to apply it all over. This is where I feel like a lot of people mess up because they just think you need to utilize the entire eye area. This is an amazing trick that's going to honestly look so good on you. You want to focus on the lash line. So you want to go back into it whenever you need to, start small and build it up. And you want to focus on just going over the lash line, but applying it a little higher into the lid, only in the center. You don't need to go over the entire lid. And if you start small, you'll find that you can kind of slowly build it up to what you like. You need, honestly, the smallest amount. It goes a long way. Personally, I think that is more than enough. You really don't need to complicate your eye looks. I feel like if anything, as you get older, you can simplify them a bit more. So that's all we want to do for the lids. I'm more than happy with that. You can change these colors around if you want. Like a really nice peachy shimmer would look amazing too. Now, curling your lashes, I mean, that I wouldn't even say is a hack. I feel like that is a kind of must for any eye look. I'm using the Kevyn Aucoin lash curler because it's the best one. Honestly, this does not pinch your lid. It's the most amazing quality. Right, now we want to move on to mascara. This is where you want to be strategic with the type of mascara that you pick, because you want something that isn't going to be clumpy and something that's just going to give you those really nice lashes that you want. My favorite is the Hourglass Unlocked, and I know you are going to love it. It's such an amazing mascara. I feel like you don't need to go crazy with it. Now, I would suggest not brushing this through your roots. If you want a really voluminous, thick lash look, then yes, do that. But honestly, I feel like, again, you don't need to go right from the root. Go halfway along the lash and then drag out for a much softer, lighter eye look. So for example, if I was actually doing my mascara at night and I wanted it to be a bit more kind of, you know, just have a bit more volume to it, I'd really rub it through the root before I actually drag through the lash. Okay, I just want to apply a small amount to my lower lashes. Now, another thing that I want to show you, which is a really easy hack and requires minimal effort, which I think is great because obviously you really can't be bothered as much when you get older. But I want to show you how you can really create that nice flick without having to do a full eyeliner look. So you want to get an eye pencil. I'm going to be using my Milk Makeup Infinity Longwear eyeliner. You don't need a brush with this. I'm literally going to do a little dot at the end of my lash line. I'm going to get my finger, I'm going to drag out. I would always start light and then you can add more so that you don't go crazy with the first bit of application. There you go. Can you see that really faint little flick it's given me? This is way softer than doing a full eyeliner look. There you go. So you can see we've got this really nice little subtle flick on each side. Now, a little tip for you, when you apply your pencil, warm it up on the back of your hand first, because you don't want to be sitting there for ages trying to get the transfer, and some pencils need a little bit of like warming up before you can use them. Start small, like I mentioned, you don't need to have this strong flick there. Everything should look a lot softer on your skin, especially as you're getting into your 40s, because it's gonna look a lot more easy on the eye. And if you want to go harsh, like apply a harsh eyeliner, by all means do it. I'm not saying that there is like, you definitely cannot wear anything with harsh lines. Do it if you like it. These are just kind of hacks and tricks for you to implement, soften the overall look, because most of the time when I'm speaking to people who have gone into their 40s, they want something which looks a little bit softer and easier to do and doesn't look like they're wearing a ton of makeup. Now, another little hack for you is use a kind of lip plumping gloss, but something which is not crazy, like that Too Faced one is way too much. I would recommend this one. This is the Dior Lip Maximizer. It's a collagen kind of lip maximizer that lasts for so long. It's a clear color. This is the 001. It has this very subtle pink in there, which is hardly visible, or they do have, from what I understand, a completely clear one. But I use this daily, and firstly, it is super hydrating. Secondly, it does plump your lips a little bit, but not crazy where it looks stupid, where it looks ridiculous. But this is going to be your best friend when it comes to any lip product, because another issue we have is your lips start to reduce in terms of volume. Like the volume is a lot less. You want to kind of give that natural plumpness without it looking like duck-like, and this is amazing for it. Okay, you want to use a lip liner which is not so harsh, so go for something which is more waxy. Now the Charlotte Tilbury, I was going to say Iconic Nude, but that's the shade that I'm going to use. Lip Cheat is amazing. So what you want to do is just softly line your lips. Sometimes I feel like people spend too long lining their lips. That is literally all you need. And the good thing is this is such a barely there lip pencil for my skin tone that I just need to go over once. And if you actually try writing, like drawing on your hand, it's very light. The transfer isn't amazing, but it's just the perfect amount for a barely there kind of lip line, which doesn't look like I've spent ages, or it doesn't look like it's so perfectly done. That is it. If you want to use a liquid lip, then obviously go for it. I would say creamy satin finishes are way better because they're just a bit more hydrating. Everything you apply should just be kind of like quenching your skin, you know, like just quenching the thirst and just giving your skin kind of like what it needs and like a boost of moisture as well at the same time. That is honestly all I would do, and that's why I love that Dior lip maximizer, is that you can use that as your lip color, and paired with your lip pencil it looks amazing. So hopefully this has shown you how you can get that really nice healthy look to your skin. A whole load of kind of hacks and tricks mixed up together. These are all specific ways to apply your makeup and the textures that you should be using that's going to help how your makeup looks. I hope you've enjoyed this video today. Don't forget, I do have an online publication called The Beauty Breakfast Club, which is our own little beauty community, and I'd love to see you over there. 2 versions of subscription for that. One is free, which gives you access to most of the site, but the other is paid, but all it is the equivalent of getting yourself a coffee each month, and that means that I get to kind of like invest back into this and be able to give you better content. It gives you access to the entire site, including a chat room where we can chat and so much more. So head on over there and show your support. I also have another YouTube channel which is primarily podcasts that I host with my husband called Minding Our Business, along with the odd vlog here and there. I hope you've enjoyed today, and I hope it's helped you out. If you have any questions, let me know. Don't forget, everything's in my description along with all the discount codes. You might want to check that out too. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell button so that you never miss any of my future videos. Until the next video, take care, and I'll see you soon.